Hello, I'm Robert, and fact-checking for the Facebook group Doomsday Debunked, where we help people who are scared of various things. And this time it's an asteroid warning, a fake asteroid warning. We get so many of these. And it's back at the Daily Express, but several other people like Business Insider, they're running this story as well. There is no asteroid warning from NASA at all. And these are fake news stories. The asteroid is called 2002 PZ39, and it was observed in 2002 and very quickly removed from the risk list as being no possibility at all of it hitting us for at least a century. That's what it means when they remove it. And apparently it's doing a close flyby, and these people are just claiming that it could hit Earth, but it can't. So when they remove it from the risk list, then they have taken account of all the ways that it could be changing in direction. So they talk, these people sometimes talk about the Yarkovsky effect, which is a very minute effect of the sunlight. Heating it up, and as it turns around, gives a little bit of a boost from heat radiation. They take that into account. They also talk about keyholes, and keyholes don't appear randomly in space. If an asteroid goes very close to Earth, and then there's a flyby and then a hit later, or possibility of a hit later, then during the flyby there'll be a little bit of space, could be as small as a few hundred meters across in some cases, which it has to fly through in order to hit Earth the next time around. That's because the flyby, if it's very close, is very sensitive to how far away it is from Earth as it flies past. And just a little bit of a shift there can cause a huge shift a decade later. You don't get a keyhole in the middle of space. You only get it during these close flybys. And of course that is completely taken account of. When the Center of Near-Earth Object Studies, they have big supercomputers, and they run it with all the gravitational effects of all the planets, the Earth's moon, and all the biggest asteroids as well. Take account of everything. And then they also take account of the Yarkovsky effect, and then taking all of that into account with a very carefully worked out orbit, then once they know, taking all that into account, it's impossible for it to hit Earth, that is when they remove it from the risk list. And so it means that you are totally safe from it if they've removed it from the risk list. And these people are just going by NASA. They don't know anything NASA doesn't know. They're just telling you lies. That's all. And if there ever was a real warning, then you wouldn't go to the Google News and find it, or at least, it would be there of course, but you would also have it on TV. And on mainstream TV there would be asteroid experts talking about it to you. Sometimes if you have some dodgy TV channels where people do sometimes claim that asteroids are about to hit, but if there's a proper one, then it would be the mainstream TV, the most high-rated television channels, and there would be people who are from NASA and who are experts on asteroids would be telling us all about it, what we have to do to stay safe in the very remote chance if it was going to hit. But usually it would be about a deflection mission, because given a decade or 2 decades, it's very likely we have a long lead time before any asteroid is going to hit Earth, because they're very, very rare that a big asteroid hits us. And we know the very biggest ones aren't going to hit us, because we know all of them, all the ones above 10 kilometers and probably all the ones above 3.5 kilometers. And comets fly past so far away and so rare that the closest anyone got was 6 times distance from the moon in 1770 for the comets, for long period comets. We know all the short period comets and the big ones and the big asteroids, and they just can't hit us, not for thousands of years. So but ones a bit smaller than that, then if we were to spot one, they're incredibly rare for the ones that are big enough to have any global effects. And like we've found 97% I think of those, I'm not sure what the latest figure is, and find new ones every month or so, and they're soon going to have found nearly all of those as well. But they're just incredibly rare anyway. You look about, I think it's 100,000 years. Yes, the last one of that size was 700,000 years ago. And it doesn't kind of time out. It doesn't mean that after 700,000 years that you're going to get another one. It means that on average it's going to be hundreds of thousands of years before we get another one that is big enough to have global effects on the climate. And we found 90, 95, 97%, whatever the figure is, and none of those that we found can hit Earth for centuries. And so it's extraordinarily unlikely that of the remaining few percent, that there's only one that has that is even a chance of hitting Earth. That's 2,880. And so if you think of the remaining few percent, it's extremely unlikely we find any of 1 kilometre and larger. And if we did find any, it's likely to be centuries into the future, and plenty of time to deflect it. So if we ever had a big one headed our way, and that one didn't make humans extinct 700,000 years ago, well, it was the precursors, Homo erectus. They weren't made extinct, and they were much less ability to deal with things than we do. They just had some global effects for a few years of cooling the temperatures down a bit. And but we don't risk. I mean, it's practically zero risk for that too, and we know about it long, and we expect to know it long in advance. So if we ever get one, it'll either be a relatively small one, or most likely we have decades to centuries to deflect it, and then they'd be talking about how they can deflect it. If they're not talking about how to deflect it, then it would be something like the Chelyabinsk, or maybe a bit bigger, like the Tunguska one, and they'd be saying, if you're a reindeer herder in Siberia, then don't go into this particular patch of forest. It's very unlikely to hit a city. That's likely to be thousands of years. You know, the most likely place is some very remote place, like the tundra or Antarctica or deserts or something, just because more of the Earth is that. And most likely of all is sea, the middle of the sea. That's far the most likely place. If they do predict an asteroid, it'll hit. So unless it's a very big one, and then it would they mightn't even need to deflect it, and it would just be instructions, just like for hurricane, like when they say hurricane is approaching Miami, get out of Miami, don't be there on such and such a date. And asteroids, they know far more precise than the hurricanes, and they will say, and be sure you're not in Miami on such and such a minute, on such and such a day, on such and such a year. You might get some very, I mean, if you're sensible, you'd leave Miami the day before rather than leave it to the last minute. But theoretically, you could just wait there and say, we've got 53 minutes left, we've got 18 minutes left, we've got 17 minutes left. Let's get in the helicopter and head off now, and hover from above and photograph it. And so you just don't need to worry about all this stuff. I've got another one about it. So I've got a link to my thing. Why you don't need to be scared of asteroids. Far less scary than lightning. I've talked about that before, but I just want to do a short one. I could make my videos a bit shorter if I can, and that's surely enough. So really, you can just ignore all of these. I've done this Sentry table, but you could go. So that's NASA's have a very techy table. It's extremely difficult to read, and to help people who don't have the kind of mathematical way of thinking that the likes of me have, then I made this non-techy interface to it. So it's a publicly exposed. It's a table with a publicly exposed interface that you can query over the internet. So anyone can make a table like the way that NASA did. And so I just did my version, which is easier to read. It's the same as their table basically. It's just easier to read if you're not so mathematically inclined. Although for a mathematician or astronomer, it would seem incredibly wordy, and they say, why do you bother to write no hazard here, for instance? You just need the number 0, that's all you need. Because on their table, where mine says no hazard, their table says 0. 0 means, and if you go to the key, 0 means no hazard, white zone. So they just have a lot of zeros there. And someone very mathematically or astronomic, meteorite scientist, whatever, would just look at that and say, why do you write no hazard every time? Why don't you just write 0? That's all you need. And all this will seem extremely wordy to them. But for the people I help, then it's much better for them to have it written out in words, so they can immediately understand that this means it is not a hazard, instead of having a 0, which for not very mathematical people, then that that's a kind of barrier that gets in the way of properly understanding what the NASA table means. That's all I've done here. And then I've got a unified search for object, and so you can type in this object, which is what I've got here. But I mean, you really don't need to do any of this. So because the people would be on television telling you if there was something going on. But if you want to, you click there and paste. It'll get the data from NASA. You see it was getting data from NASA, and it says it was removed from the database, and that says when it was removed. That means it can't hit Earth in the next century. Some of these asteroids can hit us thousands of millions of years into the future. Again, that's all in words. If you went to the NASA website, then you have to find the removed objects table, then enter that thing, do a search, and then you just get it listed as a name. It doesn't really explain what the removed objects table even means, because you just assume you know it, or you go and look up in their FAQ or whatever. And this just takes away some of that barrier. Again, makes it much easier to understand. That's all I've done. So, and the tracked, if you go to tracked, no asteroid, no hazard, and sometimes it'll go into green, which is normal. That happens once or twice a year. Happened a bit earlier this year, and nothing to worry about. It goes into yellow again. So, but if it goes into yellow and is of interest to the general public, then they'll be on the news talking about it anyway. So basically, you don't need to go here ever really, because you can be guaranteed it'll be on your TV if it's anything of real importance. But it's useful to reassure people. So anyway, that's it. I think that's enough. I'll stop at this point. Do join our group, Facebook group, Doomsday Debunked, if you want to help. So we're not looking for stories to debunk particularly. We're looking, if you're scared of something, then we will help you. And if you're good at helping people who are scared, either by reassuring them, then do join us. If you want to help debunk these stories, then we do it by finding out the facts and the truth. And there's no sugarcoating, we just tell things as they are, so that people understand the truth. And that is what we're all about. If you're good at researching into things and finding out what the true situation is, then we're very welcome to help us as debunker too. Anyone who joins the group, do check out the rules at the top of the group, because they're very important. They help it to function properly. And of course you can do subscribe to this channel to get more videos like this.